What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Breakdown Sportscast. I am your host, Kory Willis. I'm doing the show solo this week. My friend Chris, of course, had to take care of some business, of course, but don't worry, guys. I got you this week. It's going to be a short show, so don't worry. We will go over a lot of things that went over in week 11 of the college football season. Also some breaking news as well in the coaching space of college football as well. So before we get into everything for Monday, we want to let you guys know we appreciate you guys listening in on the show. As always, of course, we're on many different streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music, Amazon Audible, iHeartRadio, and many other streaming platforms. So we very much appreciate you guys' support. Always feel free to like, comment, subscribe to the show. It lets us know what we're doing and how we can improve for the future. So we very much appreciate it, guys. Doing a show solo this week, of course. Well, for Monday, hopefully we'll see what happens on our Friday show. See if Chris will be back with us. But for today's show, it is going to be a little quicker than usual. But week 11 is in the books, of course. We had a lot of great games, but we also had some big news coming out of the coaching scene, of course, where Texas A&M coach Jimbo Fisher is out at Texas A&M. He is no longer the head coach of A&M anymore. So, this news came out on Sunday. Pretty much woke up on Sunday morning and looked at my phone and saw this news, of course. I think a lot of us can pretty much be safe to say that this was inevitable. It's kind of crazy that once Jimbo Fisher had got to A&M, I mean, he took that job around 2017. So yeah, it's been a while now with him holding the car keys to A&M. Now it's going to go to someone else. This was something that was inevitable, I would say. He had those first couple of years where he saw some success, and if you could ask A&M fans, in the beginning, they were happy that Jimbo had took that job. Because if you don't, or if you've forgotten, originally Jimbo Fisher was going to take the LSU job around that time. LSU boosters were heavy. They were all in on one Jimbo Fisher, and hey, what do you know? A&M ended up scooping them up. Not too long afterwards. So that ended up pivoting over. Well, for LSU, they had to pivot and getting Brian Kelly to Baton Rouge, and the rest was history. So for this news to occur, where does Texas A&M go from here? I mean, there are some candidates, of course. I know people have thrown out Elko from Duke, Lane Kiffin, of course, at Ole Miss. Dan Lanning's name has popped up. All sorts of names have popped up as potential candidates for this job. And look, I'm just going to say it right now. I mean, A&M is a really good job. The resources that you have at A&M is second to none. So someone that's willing to sell themselves and really get that those boosters at A&M and Ross Bjork, the athletic director, over the moon for whoever steps through those doors. Hey, you got all the resources you need to succeed there. So, A&M, by any stretch of imagination, um, I'm not saying that A&M is a bad job or anything. It's a great job overall. So we'll see what happens, of course, going forward. But it would be great if we had Chris on the show to get his thoughts, and we'll definitely get that hopefully later on this week just to see what he says. But I was shocked a little bit in knowing that it happened pretty much on a Sunday. Not just that it was going to happen, and of course, and I'll say this again, of course, about the Michigan stuff and everything. It's never good to speculate on someone's job security, but when you are a head coach in college football nowadays, especially, you're in the results business, and A&M saw that. The fans saw that, and now they're going to be looking for another head football coach, and many other programs as well. So, this is one of those things where they wanted to get in front of this as quickly as possible. The season's about to wrap up. You only got 2 more games left in the regular season, so they really wanted to start as early as possible. So we'll see what happens. But Jimbo Fisher is out as the head coach of the A&M Aggies, and hey, he has a $70 million buyout. So I mean, I guess he's not too angry, of course. At the end of the day, but we'll see what happens with A&M. But this was big news, of course, for me to start off my Sunday over the weekend. But yeah, feel free to let me know what you guys think, of course, about this whole ordeal with A&M. Yeah, be sure to let myself or Chris know what you guys think, of course, about just this wild news. But yeah, so we are now going to go into some of the games, of course, that I wanted to discuss for the week. And I'll also go over the rest of the top 25 scores as well. But I will start off with Ole Miss traveling to Georgia. This game was primetime game, of course. So yeah, it was a big game. You had Ole Miss with the number 9 ranking, of course, in the CFP. And Georgia still number 2. We'll see what happens on Tuesday's CFP rankings when those come out. But yeah, Georgia took care of business, won this game 52-17. Georgia is now 10-0. Ole Miss is now 8-2 in place. So Georgia still the top team, I think, in the SEC. And Carson Beck, he looked pretty good. He was 18 for 25 with 306 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, and he did throw 1 interception. But he had a 96.6 QBR for the day. Jackson's Dart, he was 10 for 17, 112 yards, through an interception. But yeah, like overall, Georgia just they took care of Ole Miss soundly. I mean, Beck looked good. Players stepped up. Yeah, just a all around performance. Kendall Milton, he had 9 carries for 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. DeJuan Edwards, he had 12 carries for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns as well. So, everyone had a chance to make plays in this football game pretty much. And, it really shows the depth of Georgia. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like they are the top team in college football right now. I do think that Georgia will probably get that #1 spot come Tuesday, but we'll see. But yeah, just a overall great performance by Georgia, and yeah, Kirby Smart, I know he's happy with his team becoming 10-0. So we'll definitely see what happens heading into the SEC championship game. So we'll definitely talk about what the Tide and company did this past week as well. So yeah, now we're gonna go over to the Michigan Penn State game. This was a game that me and Chris had talked about. That was going to be filled with tons of defense that were going to clash with each other. And for the most part, that did happen. But Michigan still won this game 24-15. They took care of business the way they needed to. Without Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is currently right now serving a 3-game suspension. We'll see what happens. I was listening to ESPN Matt Berry talk about the potential Jim Harbaugh return maybe this week. We'll see what happens, of course, depending on when you're listening to this show. We'll see what happens with Jim Harbaugh in terms of coming back to coach the last 2 regular season games. But yeah, Michigan defeated Penn State 24-15. Michigan is now also 10-0. Penn State 8-2 for the season. But yeah, this game was pretty much the way I envisioned it, and Michigan took care of business. Blake Corum, he was pretty much the main guy in this game that took care of business to seal the victory for Michigan. He had 26 carries, 145 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So it was also emotional, of course, for Blake Corum in this football game, and not just him. Coach Sharon Moore was filling in for Jim Harbaugh in this game. He was the interim head coach, and he was also very much emotional in this game, and he was crying on camera, just talking about how proud he was of his team. And he had every right to be emotional, of course. You have a lot on your shoulders with this team being one of the top teams in the country, trying to jockey for a position in the college football playoffs. And you have all of these things coming at you on all different ends of the spectrum. And, you go out there and you lead your team to victory. Hey, just, let that moment take you, of course. You won in a hostile environment. That's always a good feeling when you can get the W. So, yeah, just a lot of emotions just have been brewing with this Michigan team. I know Blake Corum and they were really happy, of course, and they were pretty much saying, the players were saying, we're doing this for Jim Harbaugh. So for the players, great job on them. For Sharon Moore, great job for him. Sharon Moore is I know he's probably still excited right now. So just a great job for everyone involved in that game for Michigan. But in terms of what's going to happen going forward for Jim Harbaugh, I mean, like I said earlier, there's a possibility that he can coach out the rest of the season and go from there. We'll definitely see. I know Chris and I will definitely have more to discuss with the whole saga going on at Michigan with Jim Harbaugh. But yeah, there's it's just an interesting story, and we'll see what happens going forward. Next game that I wanted to talk about was the Alabama Crimson Tide going to Kroger Field to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. This was a early noon game. Of course, the Alabama had to get up and go on the road. And it's always weird to see those Alabama games where they're pretty much playing like right early in the morning. I know they prefer playing later in the afternoon or even prime time, get those prime time slots. But hey, it didn't faze them at all. Alabama took care of Kentucky 49-21. Alabama is now 9-1. Kentucky is now 6-4. Man, I have to tell you, Jalen Milroe is the truth. This man, he looked the part, and he has gotten better. You know, when we're getting closer to the Heisman, and to me, and I know me and Chris will probably talk about a lot of this more as we get into the Heisman season. What is going to happen in terms of the Heisman voting? For me, I have to say this. Jalen Milroe is starting to look like the top player in college football right now. And it is crazy to hear that probably come from my mouth, of course, but you know, you have to ask yourself, who has been more consistent in the last several weeks? I say probably the last 4 or 5 weeks. You gotta say Jalen Milroe, right? I mean, this man. let me just tell y'all the stats that he had in this game. Passing, he was 15 for 22, 234 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. He also did throw 1 interception. So he ended up with a 94.5 QBR for the day. And rushing, because this guy is a natural athlete with his legs as well. I think that's really where he shines at. But Milroe, he had 8 carries for 36 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he's just such a great athlete at the end of the day. And when you really look at him, if you go back in the last 4 to 5 weeks, like, he has been playing lights out right now. And you have to give it to him. He's done a heck of a job being the quarterback for Alabama. I mean, you guys saw early in the year, had Saban not stuck with Milroe, where would this Alabama team be at? I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. they needed him to produce. Figured some things out, and hey, now they're 9-1, and they've clinched the SEC West division. So that's all you need to know, folks, about how Nick Saban has figured this out, how Jalen Milroe has figured this out, and possibly going to the SEC championship game with a chance to still go to the playoffs. So, hey, hats off to the Crimson Tide right now. Hats off to Jalen Milroe as well. He's playing lights out, man. I love it. I love it. So yeah. That was the game down in Lexington. Now I will talk about this game before I wrap up with some of the other top 25 games of the week. I have to talk about the Utah-Washington game that had happened over the weekend. This game, for me, I was waiting for this game all season, of course, and I think it definitely lived up to the hype. Washington defeated Utah 35-28. Washington is now 10-0. Utah is now 7-3. Michael Penix Jr., he was 24 for 42 with 332 yards through the air with 2 touchdowns. He he also did have a rushing touchdown as well in this game. So, Washington did it again. What can you say, folks? But it wasn't just him as well. Romeo Odunze, he had 3 receptions, 111 yards with 2 touchdowns. He was a beast in this game. I mean, having players like Odunze really helps a quarterback, I know, such as Michael Penix Jr., of course. It makes his job a lot easier, I would definitely say. But yeah, he was a beast in this game. Of course, no one could stop him at all on the field. So yeah, just a great performance by them. You did have that bonehead, would have been pick 6, of course. At the player not throwing the ball before crossing the line in the end zone, but which didn't really matter anyway because they ended up getting safety. So it was just a wild game overall that I thoroughly enjoyed. And it was mainly because we've been looking for this game. I've looked for this game all season, and I think this game came with great defensive stops. The offense was clicking on both teams, and yeah, we got a complete package of a football game, all around in the end. So yeah, hats off to the Huskies. You guys are now 10-0, and everything's right in front of you. So it's going to be telling once we get to Tuesday how the college football playoff committee is going to look at all of these teams and really stack them with one another. See how they're all stacked in the end. So we'll definitely see, and yeah, we will go from there. We're almost heading towards championship week, so I can't wait for that. Got 2 more weeks, folks. 2 more weeks. But but yeah, those were some of the biggest games for me that I wanted to discuss. I will do a quick blitz through with some of the other games that happened throughout the week. And I'll start off with the Thursday game. Number 11 Louisville defeated Virginia 31-24. Louisville is now 9-1. Ohio State, number 1 Ohio State, defeated Michigan State 38-3. Michigan State is now 10-0. So we'll definitely see what happens between Ohio State and I'd say Georgia, who is the real number 1 team. I think that's going to be the storyline heading into Tuesday's rankings. So we'll definitely see what happens with that. Another fun game that had happened on Saturday was number 4 Florida State. The Seminoles hosted Miami on Saturday. They won a game 27-20. It was a close game. Miami was they put the fist up. They were trying their hardest to knock out the Seminoles, but Florida State was like, nah, bro, that's not happening. Mike Norvell made sure of that, of course, but yeah, it was a good game, and Keon Coleman balled out in this game. So yeah, hats off to Florida State. They are now 10-0. So we'll see what happens going forward with the Seminoles. Number 6 Oregon hosted USC over the weekend. They won that game 36-27. Oregon is now 9-1. Bo Nix with 412 yards passing, with 4 touchdowns. You know, it's Bo Nix at this point. Like, this is what he does. So hats off to Oregon with getting the W. Number 7 Texas defeated TCU 29-26. They had to travel to Fort Worth. And yeah, they barely escaped with that game. But unfortunately, Jonathan Brooks did get hurt, of course, in that game. And it was reported as well. As I'm kind of looking at it, yeah, he has a torn ACL. So he is out for the season, unfortunately. Someone that they are definitely going to miss. I mean, in this game, he had 21 carries, 104 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So that was one of the tough things that came out throughout the weekend, was that Jonathan Brooks injury. So that's unfortunate. We'll see what Texas does going forward. But that is a big loss for Texas. So we'll see what happens. Stanford lost to number 12 Oregon State. Oregon State defeated Stanford 62-17. Oregon State is now 8-2 for the season. This game was very interesting too, and it also showed you a lot about this team. So number 14 Missouri hosted number 13 Tennessee. Missouri defeated Tennessee 36-7, and now Missouri is 8-2 for the season. And hey, I'm just gonna say this right now. Can we go ahead and crown Eli Drinkwitz as coach of the year? Because this guy has really gotten this Missouri team where they need to be. This is a great football team. I'm just going to tell you flat out right now. They probably should beat LSU earlier in the year. I think back to that game a lot, of course. But and then, hey, they played Georgia pretty well. So it's just a great team right now. Drinkwitz is doing a really good job coaching this team. And yeah, there's nothing I can say. They're playing well right now. They're playing very well right now. Brady Cook threw for 275 yards. He had one touchdown, threw for one interception. Schrader, my guy Cody Schrader, he had 35 carries with 205 yards. And one touchdown. He was also the leading receiver in this game as well. I don't think Luther Burton played in this game. They sat him out on Saturday. So, just like I said, just a great performance by Missouri, and we'll definitely see what happens with the Tigers going forward. So yeah, this game was a shocker to me. So UCF hosted number 15 Oklahoma State. They upsetted Oklahoma State 45-3. UCF is now 5-5 for the season, and Oklahoma State is now 7-3. Who would have thought that UCF was going to just blow out Oklahoma State the way that they did? I mean, hey, yeah, it's just another Saturday if you're Gus Malzahn, of course. So I saw a clip of him talking to the team. He put on his jersey and he gave his celebratory boom speech. So so shout out to UCF. Shout out to Gus Malzahn for getting that W. And yeah, everything's still in sight for them to get bowl eligible right now. So yeah, just great win. Hats off to them. And yeah, it's just it's kind of weird for Oklahoma State now. So they were riding high, and then all of a sudden you just crash and burn. So it's college football, man, in November. What can you say? So yeah, Texas A&M, Texas Tech. My apologies. Texas Tech defeated number 16 Kansas, another upset, 16-13. Texas Tech is now 5-5 for the year. Kansas is now 7-3. West Virginia went on the road to take on number 17 Oklahoma. They lost to the Sooners 59-20. Dylan Gabriel had a monster day passing. He was 423 yards through the air with 5 touchdowns. So yeah, great performance by Oklahoma to bounce back. And yeah, we'll see what's going on with this whole crazy Big 12 race. Like, apparently Iowa State is still they still have a chance, of course, to try to get into that Big 12 championship race. So it's all over the place with that conference right now. But as for Oklahoma, you're still alive. You still got everything there for you to still have a good season and still win the conference championship. Excuse me. So yeah, we'll definitely see. A couple other scores. We had number 19 LSU defeating Florida 52-35. Jaden Daniels, he had 372 yards through the air with 3 touchdowns. He also rushed for 12 carries with 234 yards with 2 touchdowns. I mean, the man was doing everything. Like, he's the manager, he's the stocker, he's the guy literally at the cash register, he does everything. He's the truck driver as well. Like the guy is LSU. But but yeah, just a great performance by him. I mean, I look for Daniels to be in New York as well by next month. So we'll definitely see what happens. But great performance by LSU this weekend. Number 21, Arizona traveled to Colorado to take on Dion and his squad. They're looking at trying to become bowl eligible, but they almost got a chance at winning this game. Of course, it was that close, but they couldn't seal the deal, and Arizona is now 7-3. They won this game 34-31. So a great win by Arizona. I mean, it's just amazing to see how they've just emerged out of the blue. Of course, if you watch Arizona, you've seen them from their lowest point, and now we're looking at these guys. They're ranked right now, and yeah, it possibly are going to a pretty good bowl by season's end. So we'll definitely see what happens with Arizona going forward. So number 22, Iowa defeated Rutgers 22-0. 23, ranked 23, Tulane defeated Tulsa 24-22. Duke traveled to play number 24, North Carolina. North Carolina won that game 47-45. And Baylor traveled to take on number 25, Kansas State. Kansas State won that game 59-25. So those are your scores for the week that was week 11. And now we're getting ready for week 12 of the college football season. So yeah, it's just another week down, and we're chugging along. We're almost there, folks. We're almost there at championship week, and should be a big week, of course. But overall, yeah, that's pretty much all of the topics that I wanted to discuss with y'all this week, or at least for today's show, I should say. So I will be back, hopefully with Chris. We'll see what happens on our Friday prediction show. It'll be business as usual, but yeah, we always appreciate you guys listening in on the show. You can find me on social media. You can find me on X at Listen to KSW. I'm on there talking college football, video games, professional wrestling, all of that great stuff that I love. So be sure to follow me on there. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. Appreciate you guys listening in on the show, and hopefully Chris will be back with me on Friday to talk about all of the topics for week 12, all of the predictions, I should say. So until then, guys, y'all take care, and we'll talk to you guys then. Peace.